All right, I'm going to work on showing you guys how to do some shading. Let's get some light. Hopefully you can see this really well. Okay, so what I want to work on showing you guys today is how to shade the eyes and the bridge of the nose. And I'm going to use only the tools that you guys have available to you. So you have a small blending stump, a medium blending stump, a kneadable eraser, so it's the gray one. You should have a little square eraser like this, and then a 6B pencil. Excuse me. So I'm going to use the tools that you guys have available to you to do this project. So that way you don't feel like I can do something that you can't because I have tools that you can't. So I'm going to open up my kneadable eraser. When they are cold, they're a little bit harder to stretch. So normally what I do is I roll them up and I hold it in my hand. And you can even just use half of one if you want. It's really up to you. This is my standard eraser. I'm just going to have that sitting there. And then I'm going to be changing between these two sizes. So I've got my 6B pencil. You want it sharp, but not to a crazy point, okay? So you definitely want to make sure that there's no wood exposed. So like on this one, the wood is getting really close, and that can actually start to scratch the paper. So you do want to make sure you have it sharpened, just not to a super sharp point. So I'm going to start with the eyes. And I'm just going to take a look at the eyes, and I'm going to see where there is details. And I'm going to kind of go over some of those details with a little bit of darker. This light is flickering. Okay, we're just going to have to go like that because that light is flickering. Okay, let's zoom in a little bit. I may only get to just one of the eyes right now, and that's fine. We're just going to take it one step at a time. So I'm going to kind of darken these up because he does have a darker area around. Now, I'm not really putting any pressure on this pencil. This pencil is a dark pencil already, so it's just naturally going to be darker. I'm going to very lightly fill in. Now, remember, the person that I'm drawing he's a character, so he does have some crazy eyes. His pupil is not normal. So I'm just kind of darkening up some areas. He's got some shadows. Do not forget, all eyes, even if you cannot really see them because of your picture, they do have tear ducts and things like this. So if your picture is blurry, these are some details that you're going to have to kind of create on your own. Same thing with the eyes. If you can't see the pupil and the iris because the picture is too small or blurry, you're going to have to kind of create these details on your own. It's going to be your artist interpretation. Okay. So most eyes, some people have different eyes, but most eyes have these little lines in the iris that go towards the pupil, and he has them on the edges. So I'm going to draw these little lines all going towards Alright, now I'm going to take my small blending stump. Now this blending stump is brand new, it's not dirty, and usually blending stumps work best when they're a little bit dirty. So I'm actually going to make a little mark over here just to make this one a little bit more user-friendly. So with this guy, you can do little tiny lines, little tiny circles. Do not use the tip because it will mess it up. You want to use it at an angle. So I'm dragging some of that pencil towards the center because his eyes are really light, but they do have that dark ring. Now you can always go back in and darken some things up. And add like another layer. And his pupil is not perfectly shaped this, it does kind of have like a soft edge, so I'm going to soften that up. Then I'm going to come in with my kneadable. I'm going to shape it. And I'm going to get some little highlights. Now this is all about going back and forth between kind of adding little highlights, adding detail. So I'm going to come in with a pencil and add some single lines that are darker. There's a little bit of shadow down here, so I'm going to get that. Now you can go back and forth adding more detail. So I'm going to add some more little lines. Now you'll notice this little highlight right here. You're going to want to take your kneadable and create that highlight, that little shiny spot. So you still want to have those types of things. So do not forget your highlights, your reflections, because our eyes are made with moisture. So there's going to be some of that reflection. Okay, and you can always go back and forth, adding some lighter areas. Okay, so that's more of like the center of the eye, the pupil. Now, for the actual whites of the eyes, they're not going to be pure paper white. Now, as you go, you're going to want to erase the grid. Try not to smear it with your hand. If you have some kind of like rag, that might be a little better. Just very gently to remove any pencil shavings. Okay, so to get some of the areas around the eyes that's a little bit darker, pay attention. He's got this crease here, and he does have them under the eyes, but I'm not really going to focus on those too much. I'm going to darken this up a little bit. Okay, so the whites of the eyes are never pure white. So I'm going to come in here and I'm very gently, very softly going to add some shading to them. Pay attention to your image where there's darker areas. This side of the eye is a lot darker. And then he's got this little dark area. You may also have, depending on your image, some little, if you're a close-up image, you might have some like little blood vessels. If it's a little bit further away, you may only have just some reflections. Okay, now this is like the inside part of the eye. So now we're going to start working on some of the shadows around the eye. Now he has some really dark shadows in these areas. Your person may not. So I'm going to create this little area here so I can use this, because it's better a lot of times, not all times, but a lot of times it's better to get your blending stump dirty off of like a paper like this and then put it on versus putting your pencil directly onto the paper. So I'm gonna get this crease that's above. Now his eyebrows are kind of bent a little bit, so we don't see too much of the crease, but we do see these shadows. So small little circles, and this is going to create those shadows and that skin tone. And I'm just dragging to get those like bags or those lines under his eyes. Small little circles. Remember to erase the grid as you go. So his nose is shaped differently than most people's. And you definitely want to erase the grid before you get to shading that area, because it's harder to shade over an area that you had shaded and then erased. So try and erase as you go. There we go. Okay, so he does have this like kind of dramatic shape to his nose. And as this gets like less pencil, I'm just going to add more graphite to it. And remember, whenever you have fresh graphite on it, it's going to be darker. And you're just going to keep blending, and this creates that skin texture. There's a lighter area here, so I'm going to go very light. Even in the light areas, you still want a little bit of pencil, like a little bit of graphite, just so it creates that skin texture, like that feel. So this part of his eye gets pretty dark. And then I would go back in and kind of darken up some details. So it's all about layering, going back and forth. So you would kind of start with this eye and work your way out, and that's how you would build the bridge of the nose. And then you would go on to the next eye and do the same thing. So I would work on this eye, work my way out, and that would kind of create most of the bridge of the nose. And you just kind of keep working your way down. And you can always go back to areas and add more. I know this area needs to be darker. It's always much easier to darken an area than it is to lighten it. Now, depending on the size of your face, you may switch over to the larger blending stump. For a lot of this detail on the inside part of the face, I use the small one. And it just depends on the size of your image as well. Now, what's nice about this kneadable, if you have an area that you need to lighten a little bit, you can kind of just tack this on. And because it's a little tacky, a little sticky, it will pull some of the graphite off to lighten it. So if you need to fully erase something, you would use this guy. If you want to lighten or shape to have some super detailed areas, you can. So I can get some like little highlights in there. Okay. If you drop this, it's going to get disgusting. So please keep it safe on your table. Don't drop it. Because as soon as you drop it, it's going to get any hair, any dirt, especially if you have pets, it's going to get really bad. So I'm just going to come in here and add these details. This area is pretty dark in his eyes. Your eyes might not be as dark. And that's the thing. Every single one of your guys' image is different. Okay? And so he's got this highlight right here. So I'm going to go in and get that. So like I said, it's all about layering, going back and forth between adding shadows, coming in with the kneadable and getting those highlights. And you would just continue to work your way out. If you need more graphite on your paper, add that. And you just kind of keep working out. So like I said, I would start here, work my way out, get a nice little area done, start on this side, work my way out. And by doing that, you have pretty much almost the whole bridge of the nose done. I will create another video where I work on like the nose and the mouth. So right now, this for the first part, you should start with one eye, start shading that, work your way out, work on the other eye, and work your way out. Okay, and then I'll do another video where I have like both of that done, and I'll work on like more of the nose. Okay, do not add eyebrows or eyelashes yet. Okay,